Good afternoon, everybody. This is I think it's a highly anticipated show. School member Alston. People were when I thought you were coming yesterday. There was like people were waiting. They were sharing, commenting. Couldn't wait to see you come on. And then I know you had that really long day, so I was like, if you're available on Thursday, and you graciously said yes. And so here we are today, about to have a conversation of some of the things. And I think I know you had a long day, and I actually thought that science part of the meeting was going to be a lot longer than it was. No, like that was only 23 minutes. He did finish before 5:30, but it was still a long day nonetheless. So I didn't, I'm okay with the decision that we reschedule it today. I hope you are with that too. Sandra Sheffer, host of Race of the Races. School board member Alston was gracious enough to come and talk to us about all the things that's happening on the school board. And it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. So I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the folks first, and then we'll start the conversation. It really is a conversation. Hopefully the questions don't get a little too hot or testy, but it's definitely going to be a conversation that we're going to have today.
Excellent. Well, can you hear me okay, Sandra?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Well, look, I'm glad to be here. Finally. It has been long enough, and I know that we've talked about, last week, unfortunately, I know we had to reschedule because I was at Legoland, because that is, for me, the most important, my family first.
Absolutely.
Happy to take my kids, and I was the designated roller coaster survivor. So
you had to go on the rides?
That's right.
Oh, Lord. I don't go. I was glad when the twins were tall enough that they could go together. I was like, I don't want to go.
That's right. So no, to the listening audience, and Sandra, thank you again for finally having me on. And to those who are listening and watching, I am a longtime public servant. I'm a product of this community. I'm a son of Broward County. I am the current District 2 school board member, former Broward County Commissioner. I used to be on the FAMU Board of Trustees for about 6 years. At the time, I was the youngest serving member on the board. So I have higher education experience, K-12 experience, both as a practitioner and now serving on the school board. I think that's probably one distinction of several distinctions on the board. I'm the only student member who served on the board about 20 plus years ago. Now the student member was now an adult member, serving on the board, representing District 2. As many of you know, I was also chair of the board. I think it was a great time. I think we called it the Reform Board. We got a lot of things done, pushed some people out who needed to go, got two people who were experienced, who know the district, and who did a great, amazing job as interim superintendent. So proud of that work. Got them in during that period. So a lot of great things has happened. Again, the youngest chair of the school board in our county's history. So as I tell my wife, I am, I guess, the old school millennial. So meaning, yes, I am a millennial, but I have an old soul, having, been around my grandparents, and of course, born and raised, and have really touched all aspects of Broward County. Know all the aspects well. Some don't know I was actually born in South County, born in Hollywood. So of course, many who know me hear a lot about my Fort Lauderdale roots, because I talk a lot about it. Many know about my Pompano roots. I talk a lot about it. But I also have a South Broward connection and roots as well. So when I talk about Broward County, it's because I know Broward. I've been all around the county. I have family all around the county. I have roots all around the county. And look, this is an exciting time, to help the community, to serve the community. I'm humbled. And again, as I always say, for me, it's always by the grace of him. And I'll just say God, as I said on the microphone yesterday. Some don't like to use those three letters together, but I do. So I appreciate, again, this opportunity, and I'm ready to have a conversation.
All right. And I have to tell you, so Dr. Katrina Touchstone, proud Rattler grad, as far as from what I was told, said you were the SGA president while she was at FAMU. So she filled in for you yesterday. So I spoke to Dr. Touchstone from the great city of West Park yesterday. Yes. She said, yeah, he was SGA president when I was at FAM.
That's right. And I just clicked on comment, so I apologize. I wasn't even seeing all the comments coming in. But yes, my friend, Dr. Touchstone.
Yes.
We sat, I think, together on a flight a couple months back, coming back from Broward days, doing the great work, advocating for South County up in Tallahassee. So yes, she's a rattler. I'm a rattler. And it's good to know that we have folks striking all around the county.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it was fortunate or unfortunate, but I ended up at some PWIs, so I cannot relate to that experience. And so I so wish I could, I so wish I could. All right, so we're gonna get started today, but this is what I first want you to talk to me about.
Sure.
Is because I don't think a lot of people understand like the school board and like who's your boss, or you the boss of someone, and how it's really supposed to work. Because there was some comments that member Fam made like during one of the meetings, and she was like, well, we should have been able to be a part of something. They was like, well, no, you really not able to do that. So if you could just give us like a basic understanding of like how the board works. Do they have a boss, or are they the boss of anybody? And then once we get that foundational piece, then I think we could continue the conversation in another direction.
100%
the conversation.
100%. And Cynthia Alcius, of course, I'm sitting down with Sandra, as I've told her, and we've talked offline, and I'll always have a conversation with anyone about really issues impacting Broward and how we move Broward forward and how we help all of our families. And in my case, serving on the school board, making sure our children get what they need, regardless of whether they're in the North or the South, their education, their programs, their facilities, their environment should be the same. The problem is, unfortunately, in Broward County, it's not equal. And I think we know that all too well, and I know it all too well, having gone to Blanche Ely High School in the North, having gone to Parkway Middle School in Central, having gone to Walker Elementary also in the Central region. So I know all too well about our facilities and about our schools. I served as chief of staff also, Sandra, then I'll get to your question. When I worked at Broward County government for then soon to be Mayor Barbara Sharif. So I know South County very well. I did that for many, many years. So the residents and voters and families of Miramar, Pembroke Pines, Southwest Ranches, Cooper City, Davie, they all know me very well. And I'm excited to still be serving and representing them. And we'll see what the future holds. But Sandra, the school board reports to the people. And I see Aretha Rimberly on as well. But the school board reports to the people, reports to the residents. As you know, our board has 9 public servants, a combination of those who have been elected and some who've been appointed. But we all take the same oath, whether you've been elected or appointed, which we'll get to a conversation, I'm sure, about what happened yesterday. We took the oath that says we will support all of our state laws. We will support the Constitution, and we will do what's right. So the school board, we're charged with making sure that all children have quality instruction in all of our public schools. So that's our traditional public schools and public charter schools. It was interesting. I had a colleague on the board who I think tried to say yesterday that the school board has no oversight of charter schools. I didn't respond. I said, oh my goodness. I know that member didn't say that because guess who approves every charter school application? The school board, right? If there's an issue with the charter school, guess who has to close them down? The school board. So it's interesting. I know there are many members who are still learning their job, which is really unfortunate. The grand jury reports, unfortunately, have talked about those types of board members. I'm never going to fall in that place, Sandra, and to the listening public. I take my role very, very, and it's personal to me because I have children. I have nieces and nephews. I have cousins, and I have family all throughout the district. And I tell them, for those who are listening, don't say who you are. Because you're my best eyes and ears all throughout Broward, right? But no, so it's personal to me. And they, many have known me for many, many years, and many know my heart. And Sandra, look, I'll be candid with you. For the last almost over a year plus now, I'm the one board member. I'm not afraid to take on tough issues. Every meeting, I'm going to push an issue, whether it's making sure that we talk about what is the academic plan for 125,000 kids who are not proficient in math, reading, and science. I'm the only board member who's pushed that. I'm not going to run from an issue that's going to set aside millions of dollars to make sure that when it's time and when it's needed, we have money that we can depend on, i.e. that's where we are now, Sandra, right?
Yeah.
The board who is taxed to the max and spin. That's a whole nother topic. So
spin on things that it's like, but where the students at in all of this spending? Where's the student in all of this spending? And I'm gonna interrupt you just a little bit because in part of listening to that meeting yesterday, they were talking about Plantation High School, right? And they said the school has had water, like for years, they've had water that they can't drink or use. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand that.
I just got a text, and you can see this is live. This is my family for those who are looking. But I just got a text from someone that, just said, hey, we got some issues at one of our schools. I guess the propane is out. So anyway, when they get up this call, I'm going to be reaching out to operations to see what's going on. So look, I mean, we have these issues all the time. And Sandra, there's some board members who prefer not to bring any items. I think if you go back and look, since I've been on the board since August of 22, I think I have brought more items than any school board member sitting on the board.
Popular or unpopular?
I think I have
some of the items you bring. They're like, why he doing that?
Well, I think but many of them are passed, Sandra. I just gave you. Let's go down the list. African American history, passed. Setting aside $8 million for a rainy day, passed. Right? Setting aside and making sure that we do right by all of our students, i.e., yesterday, a 9-0 vote, passed. Right? Getting rid of a superintendent with the initials VC, passed. Bringing on a new superintendent who happened to be my principal, deputy superintendent, an icon at the time, I think a member of Delta Sigma Theta many organizations, passed. Brought on an acting superintendent, or I think as the district likes to call it, a task assigned.
Task assigned, I remember
7 days, all these crazy terminology that I've come to learn, right? Passed, right? I came on a board that did not want to touch a superintendent with the initials VC, right? That VC superintendent destroyed our academics. That VC superintendent, there were members on the board who would not touch her. Many, I think, who are running for office right now, but that's a whole nother topic, right? So I'd like to, look, I'm not afraid of tough issues, right? I'm going to do what's right. Sandra, I take a lot of arrows, but guess what happens 5 minutes later? Somebody calls me and says, Torey, you did the right thing. I get a text message later that says, wow, you were right. Look at yesterday, Sandra. We're talking about yesterday. I brought this. I was at Legoland, and I had to do this item from Legoland about, look, if we're breaking the law, guess who's not going to break the law? Guess who's not going to be in a grand jury report? Torey Alston. Okay. Right. So, and guess what? 8 other people agreed. But leading up to it, you had a newspaper who likes to sell papers, right? And they
subscriptions to read them online.
Yeah, they like to see. Yeah, and only 100,000 people actually receive the Sun Sentinel, by the way, right? Which is less than point nothing in Broward. So, but it's interesting because that was my intent. Make sure that Broward is compliant and that we're doing the right thing and that our kids don't get hit losing millions of dollars. That was my intent. Guess what? 8 other people agreed. It took them 3 hours, right? It took them using a thesaurus and a dictionary that you saw, right? I needed to be an English teacher and a reading teacher and a math teacher all at once, but it passed, right? So back to your point, Sandra, I have pushed so many motions. I have brought so many items about academics, about operations, and about doing the right thing. I've been challenging other board members, bring your items. It's easy. And welcome, Miss Deidre. Welcome, Dr. Touchstone. It's easy for them to say no, right? It's hard for you to actually put your own items out there. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. So like with the board members, so there's another thing that's going on is like every now and then you'll hear board members say something. Are board members allowed to speak on behalf of the board, or is there somebody that, do they get to just say what they want about what the board going to do? Is each board member allowed to do that?
So every board member can do what he or she pleases.
But is it right? Is probably what I should have asked you. Is it the right thing to do?
And as it says on the bottom, I am school board member Alston, with school board member Alston's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What speaks for the board is when the board actually votes on something. That's when the board has spoken, right? What speaks for the board is I think I'm that one member every time the minutes come up, which is the most important part of the meeting. So for many who've asked, why does he always pull the minutes of the meeting? Well, guess what? The minutes of the meeting tell you what happened at the prior meeting. And then when you approve the minutes, that's the most important function of the board, because you have now ratified actions from before. Before you ratified actions or approved actions, they're just that. So for me, that is one of the most important fundamental things. And I look at the minutes line by line, because guess what? If you missed the wrong motion, comment, or action, and Dr. Touchstone knows this as I see her on, right? That is how you can lose, what type of momentum or actions that took place at the prior meeting. So that's important to me. So yeah, every board member can speak on his or her behalf, but the board chair typically speaks for the board. Mm-hmm. And that person will speak based on the votes of the board. Votes on the board. Anyone can talk to the newspaper. Anyone can talk to their constituents. I do it all the time, every day. And I'm not ashamed of it. You're supposed to.
All right, so there's some questions that are coming into the chat, and I'm gonna try to go through them and see if I can ask them, because they're coming. There was a couple that came a little fast, but I want to talk about the parts of the board meeting that I did watch yesterday. Yes, they were talking about some spend authority, right? Yeah. Like the spend authority was something that was like $220 million or whatever, and then I think board member Hickson said she wants to make it $50 million. Can you explain what that is? Because I didn't know y'all had $220 million to do anything. But
Sandra, let me. Forget what you just said.
Explain what that means.
Forget what you just said. I now serve on a school board with members who finally care about finances. They haven't cared about finances since I've been on the board. They've increased millage rates. They have increased the number of employees to the district. They know we have a $3 billion need for all of our facilities, right? They know that we need to pay all employees. And we're going to get to that, okay? Not just one set of employees, okay? Let me be clear, right? There are 6 people on the board, and this is public, so I'm not sharing anything that's not known. 6 people on the board voted for raises that are only for teachers. Sandra, I have family who are bus drivers. I have family who are cafeteria workers. I'm the son of a deceased law enforcement officer. So what about our law enforcement officers? Mm-hmm. What about the clerical staff, right? So from this one board member, I believe that raises should be for everybody. There's 6 people who heard staff say, we don't have the money. But guess what they did? They still went ahead and did it using money that is not in the budget for next year.
So is that because the teachers have a stronger union than all of the other organizations, or just that people probably care about teachers getting more money than anybody else, since they're really they might be considered the backbone of the educational system? May there be some legitimacy to giving the teachers that money?
So the backbone of the education system, Sandra, is our children. The reason why we're here is for those 251,000 children that we're responsible for. Okay, let's be clear. Secondly, who supports those children? About 15,000 teachers, okay? 1,000 plus, right, administrators, right, who actually have 8.5-hour days. Teachers have 7.5-hour days, okay? We have law enforcement, security monitors, clerical staff, who all have said in the last 24 hours, Torey, I now understand why you voted no, because those raises were only for one group of employees. And secondly, those 6 board members, which I've written about, used money that did not exist. That's shameful.
So what happens when the money don't exist? Can they do like how the government does and operate at a deficit? Is that something that the school board can do? Because the government broke, but they they pay the bills all the time, I think.
You should ask those 6, bring those 6 other members on your show and ask them. But I think the key, Sandra, is by doing that, At some point, you got to make some tough decisions, which this board has shown they're not ready to do. Yesterday, 3.5 board members, I said 3.5 for a reason, said we're not closing schools. Okay. Now, remember, this redefining schools, this wasn't the superintendent's idea. Let's be clear, right? The board directed the superintendent to do this. Okay. This was supposed to include reimagining our academics, reimagining what our school sites could look like because of under-enrollment, reimagining no longer having leaky facilities. So what could we do to leverage those facilities and land and other assets? Well, I thought the repurposing God was coming yesterday. He did not show up. Everyone thought a list of schools were going to be presented yesterday. There was no list. So guess what I did? I was the last to speak before the chair. I said, look, I've heard from 7 of y'all. Y'all can use this list for the public, right? That had all of the under-enrolled schools, by the way, and I want you to see my notes, it's public. 17 of them are in my district. They're Black and heavily Hispanic. And they're also in charter school predominant areas. You think that this is what I want to use as a list for closing emerging schools? When I know the other districts that they're going to target, District 5 in Central Broward that I represented on the county commission, District 1 that I was born in, District 7, where my high school was.
Because I live in your district.
I know.
I live in your school district. I live in your school district. So are you saying that some of the reimagined, repurposed, closed schools should be around here?
No, I said the opposite. I'm the only board member who said we should not use this metric. Go back and pull the tape.
So how is it that they should decide on what schools to close? Because it seems like all the schools can't be open since it also, I think I heard a number that they've lost like 50,000 students.
That is correct.
And so that's like a really big dent in the money that's available, that the state provides. So how is it that they're going to decide what schools they should close then?
So let's be clear, Sandra. This is part political. You have, I think, and I'm counting off the cuff here, so I'm going to speak names to myself. 1, 2, 3, 4 sitting school board members who have currently announced they're running for office. 4. Mm-hmm. Do you think if the superintendent only has to close schools in 4 districts, that those 4 individuals will vote to close schools? Let's be clear, right? Nicole, welcome. And I appreciate your comments. I don't know who's not using accurate data, but I can tell you the data that actually came from the district, I actually thought was actually very, very positive and strong. I actually disagree with some other stuff. But you see, Sandra, I'm trying to engage the comments.
Yes, I see, and I appreciate that. You're doing a better job of it than me. Because I'm like, as soon as I read one, another one comes through.
I know. So
this is why people have producers of their show, because they kind of help them out with the comments and they're coming in. But I have a feeling that
I'll tell you, so what again, I'm the only board member who proposed something. What I said is, if we're going to do a tough vote, if we're going to make a tough decision, think about every district that needs to reimagine something. So let me give you an example. If there are 4 elementary schools within a 2-mile radius, I'm giving an example. Don't name schools.
I won't name schools. That sounds like where I live.
That's right. Don't name communities, because guess what? It's in every community. Mm-hmm. So guess what? Here's the idea. If there are 4 schools that are severely under-enrolled, what if you got rid of 2? Focused on those 2 with programming and academics all across the district that brings all the types of programs, Cambridge, AP, IB, I can A, B, C, D, E, F, G, every kind of program, right? Mm-hmm. But you also invest in those facilities, right? Athletics, make sure there are playgrounds, right? Make sure that there are strong specials, right?
So you're talking about the last 2 schools standing out of the 4. You want to invest those things in there.
Right. Okay. I'm giving you a scenario, right? Okay. If you had a conversation with the community, 2 go away, but 2, we're going to reinvest. I'm making up a number, $10 million to do X. Bring it up first class, first, top-notch school, right? 2 new top-notch schools. But those 2 sites that we've closed, we're going to use that money and keep it in the city of, in our case, Miramar, right? Mm-hmm. Or I'll call it Parkland or Pembroke Pines or Fort Lauderdale or Hollywood, wherever, right? And with those 2 closed schools, let's think about community partners, right? Let's have, I'm making up a scenario, right? The Chamber of X, that will be housed on this school site that will provide these types of services. Maybe let's bring a wellness center that will be housed on this school site that'll provide local healthcare opportunities for that local community, right? Let's house a training and reemployment center that's housed on this school site that's going to help local jobs. And so, I mean, there's so many types of things.
So I hear what you said, and I'm not saying I don't agree with what you're saying, but that has some sort of, it sounds like a word that I don't want to use in this conversation that a lot of people are not supportive of, right? We have like a community that they're really reluctant to help other folks that are in need. They're like, well, why do you want to go use my money and provide services for folks who need to pull themselves by their own bootstraps and get their own life together, right? So the things that you're talking about, I'm not saying I don't agree with them, and I think they're great. But once you start talking about use our money, use people taxpayer money to provide services and overall make their community better, folks don't like to hear that talk, right? They just don't like to hear that talk. They ain't interested in sharing the wealth, spreading the wealth, and doing all that type of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
I'm just saying, I don't know. Like, do you?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm giving it.
I hear you, and I'm all for it, right?
I'm giving a real scenario.
It's one of those things that's really, it's a hard sell for whatever reason, because they associate those things with certain types of forms of government that a lot of people appear to be afraid of, even though they do participate in programs that benefit them, but they just call it something else. But
I just gave one example. Look at Dr. Touchstone, and she's right? Carpentry, a culinary site, right? So there's so many, partnering with state colleges and universities, having satellite campuses, so much we can do. Forget about the housing piece. I mean, that's a totally bigger conversation, right? Mm-hmm. Providing, just housing. Some believe that we should be in that space. That's not really the role, in my view, of the school district. Some board members believe that. The county's going there. I used to be a county commissioner. The only one of 9 is me, like to tell me that I'm appointed. You are correct. And by being appointed, Sandra, guess what I can do? Mm-hmm. I can do the right thing. I don't have anyone pulling my strings. I don't report to a union. I don't report to anybody other than my Lord and Savior and my wife, who's my chief critic and chief cheerleader, who says, do the right thing by all kids in this community. So your kids benefit the same as they do. That's my job.
Right.
And guess what, Sandra? I haven't announced that I'm running for anything right now. So guess what? I am doing the right thing, not looking at politics.
Just continuing to do the work.
Period.
Just continue to do the work, and we appreciate that, right? So again, there's a whole bunch of comments in things in the comment, but I don't know. Did you explain to me what this spend authority money meant?
That's right. We talked about everything else. So I think where I started. No, you're right, Sandra. Where I started is I now have colleagues who care about spending. They haven't cared for over a year. They've been spending to the max and spending down our reserves and all the above. But anyway, spending authority is not cash. It's not real savings. Okay. So let me say it differently. This is budget. This is government trickery. Okay. Mm-hmm. There is no $150 million fine that occurred yesterday, right? We didn't find $150 million. A prior board said you can spend up to this amount. What just happened? It just said, well, no, you can't spend up to this amount. Now you can spend only this amount.
If they have it somewhere.
That's correct. So there was no one did a magic trick and found money. Okay. If they did that, then we wouldn't be in the position we're in. And that's some board members, which I won't call names, and which I haven't done, and I don't do that. But yeah, this board is spend, tax to the max.
Okay, and this might be, I don't think it's gonna be on a little petty side, but it was one of those things that I noticed, and I know that you commented on it too. You talked about the configuration of the room. You know, the way like it was set up. And you know, and sometimes things may seem as though nothing, but then sometimes it's a whole lot of something. Like, why did you feel the need to discuss the configuration of the room that seemed to have excluded folks from actually being inside to observe what's happening? But I don't know, what are your thoughts on talking about the configuration of the room?
You just said it. People were excluded, right? Come on, Sandra. We know what it's like to be excluded. Okay. So forget that.
Okay.
For anyone to be excluded when there are members of the public who come to every meeting, okay, when there are stakeholders who come to every meeting, that is wrong. When I was chair,
they said that it was to be inclusive of all the folks that was going to be there at the table.
This is the first time it happened in over a year, Sandra, right? And I love the chair, by the way. I respect her a lot. We get along politically fine. It wasn't her. Maybe it was staff, but look, someone made a decision to keep people out of the room and media. It was wrong. When I was chair, go back and pull the tapes. I had people in the room. They could talk unfiltered. I never cut them off, right? Regardless of, your point of view. That's what you're supposed, that's government, right? Mm-hmm. You're supposed to let the people speak, whether you agree or disagree.
All right. So when you talk about the people speak, so that was and I think this might have been a couple of meetings ago that Brenda Pham got frustrated and walked out of the room because she wanted to say something and wasn't allowed to say. I'm gonna just tell you that I don't understand Robert Rules of Order. I don't. I'm gonna need to learn them so I can really understand what's going on. Like, how is it that the chair, after saying that they could say something and then make a decision not to say nothing, how is it that ends up happening to the point that a board member is frustrated and leaves the room?
Yeah,
you don't have to speak on it if you don't want to, but I didn't understand procedurally how that would happen, and I don't think Member Pham did either.
Yeah, let me first respond to one of your comments. Cynthia Alston, I think her comment says, but you want to cut public speaking time. Cynthia, the reason that public speaking occurs now at the school board, that you now have multiple times, is because of then Chair Torey Alston, Cynthia. The reason that you now have a public speaking time also that is unfiltered, go back and look, Cynthia, it's because of then Chair Torey Alston during the reform board period. So Sandra, look, I can tell you, everyone, reacts differently, right? For me, I love board meetings. I love policy. I love getting things done. I love finding compromise. I love, if I need to raise my voice occasionally, I will, as I just told someone at lunch today. If I need to be silent and mellow tone and work with this team and the staff, I can do that. Mm-hmm. I know how to get things done, period. Some will react differently. Some on the board takes things personal, right? Right. Some may get overly excited or agitated or frustrated. Look, Sandra, when I leave the board, I'm home. You know who I think about when I'm home? Not the board, right? I think about my little ones and my little cockapoo that's sitting right here that needs to get down. That's what I enjoy. Family. I'm a family man. I'm a family historian. I have traced my family's history all the way back to the 1800s on both sides. So those are the kinds of things that I enjoy. I'm a history buff. So when I talk about Broward from the dais, it's not because someone has told me. I've lived it. I've seen it. I know it. When I talked about it from the county commission, when Jared Moskowitz, then my fellow county commissioner, now Congressman Moskowitz, that we served.
He went viral yesterday.
He did. That we served together. We served together both in Tallahassee and in Broward. I think many people forget that, but the governor, made a great decision then. He appointed two of his hardest working people to the Broward County Commission, then Jared Moskowitz, then Torey Alston. So look, I mean, folks will, everyone reacts differently, but look, I think you probably can tell, it's hard for me to lose my cool. I am always pretty even keeled. I think folks have always kind of said that. But yeah, you'll never see me walk out of a meeting because someone made a motion. Look, you're going to be on the winning side and losing side. Those are emotions. But you know what I know, Sandra? Because I know government very well. Anytime I make a motion, I can pretty much tell you if it's going to pass.
Okay.
When I make a motion, I can pretty much tell you the 5 votes I think I'm going to get. Because guess what? I've been president of an organization. This is my first rodeo. anyone who's serving on a government board should know how to get things done, right?
Yeah, and count the numbers. You got to know how to count the numbers.
If you can't count to 5, go home.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
So
you got to know how to count the numbers.
I can tell you typically, if it's a financial topic, I can guarantee the 5 or 6 members who I can convince. If it's an academic issue, I can pretty much tell you the 5 or 6 members who I can convince. If it's a facilities issue or a paper issue, I'm sure that board member may be listening, right? I know what makes certain board members tick, right? So that's when you're an astute board member, right? And look, there are also sometimes, Sandra, to be honest, I want it to fail because I want to be that standalone voice that is very clear. I'm okay standing alone.
And sometimes that's necessary.
That's
because
right.
People need to know where folks stand on certain issues.
100%. And Sandra, I am okay 1 or 2 times because guess what? I purposely want to stand alone. That's what sometimes folks don't realize. I'm okay standing alone. I've been standing alone for all of for a good chunk of my life.
Yeah,
right. I'm okay with that. But guess why many have said, Torey, we want you to serve? Why do you think officials from all across this state has said, Torey, we want you to continue to represent your community? You can find anybody in Pompano Beach, Miramar, Fort Lauderdale, Lauderhill. You pick a community.
Any one of 31, was it 31 or 33 cities in Broward County? It's a whole lot of them.
They know me.
There's a whole lot of them.
I think I have street cred, Sandra.
See, you apparently you haven't. So now I want to go. So I'm gonna go through the little issues they ain't little. The issues that I saw. So the metal detectors, right? Yes. Apparently they're gonna go into some places over the summer, and there was a concern again that the board was not presented with different options on what these detectors can do, and they were just told like this the one y'all gonna get. And then you get to, figure out how we're going to pay it, where it's going to go. So they'll get involved in that part of it. What are your thoughts on, and then I think someone, the board attorney said that board cannot be involved in selecting vendors. And I don't think that was Fam's question. She wasn't trying to select the vendors. She was just like, let us know what these detectors do, what kind you have. And then we can know when we're trying to decide on it, that this is the best one and it suits the needs of Broward County, right?
That's right.
So what are your thoughts on, metal detectors going into school in the first place? Yeah. Right. What's your thought on that?
Let me first, Amy Shield, the $50 million in costs that were done. I have no idea. I'm still trying to find it. So Sandra, look, board member Fam was spot on, right? She asked some great questions. Mm-hmm. And as you probably could tell, I tried to assist with staff trying to help answer her questions, but I had some more intel. Not that, we all don't have the same information, we do, but it was very clear to me what school districts had used that platform before. And many of the school districts that were referenced, I'm going from memory, I think Lee County, Indian River County, Philadelphia, Duval, and I'm missing the 5th. I know 2 of those superintendents very well because we worked together when I worked for Superintendent Alberto Carvalho down in Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
So I know a couple of them. Yeah, I know them very well. So yes, I was more familiar with the platform, having had some additional conversations. So that's why I was comfortable with it. All of her questions were valid. She was spot on. But this also it's a learning moment, hopefully for staff, right? If they're board members who have questions, they should go out of their way to make them comfortable and answer the questions truthfully. Look, when I was chair of the board, and even still now, if I don't ask the right question the right way, you won't get the right answer.
You're not getting the answer.
But guess what?
You're not getting the answer. They're gonna say something. You be like, but I ain't even, and then they're confused, and then it's confusing. You be like, well, is that what I asked? I'm an attorney, so I hear things differently, right? So when I'm listening to the answer, I'm like, that ain't the question that they asked you. You said a whole bunch of words, but it really didn't answer the question. And Fam is too, and she was like, that ain't what I asked you. I need you to answer the question that I actually asked. And most people in the public may not be able, and I shouldn't say most because I don't want to judge people's level of understanding or anything, but there are folks who would not understand that they're answering a question, but it was not the one that was asked, and it's addressing a completely separate issue, right? And that's some of the games. I think I shouldn't. Should I say they playing games? Well, that's some of the ways in which they answer questions on the board that can be frustrating for somebody that kind of understand that that really wasn't an answer to nobody's question.
Yeah, and Sandra, look, I'll tell you, at least for me, anytime I ask a question, I 99% already have the answer. So I am one, testing the board, testing staff, right, to verify that there is no trickery, right, or politics, right. So that's typically, but look, every board, all board members, approach things differently. Most of my questions actually occur not public, right, because you're supposed to take that time to engage with staff, right, because those are the most important individuals who actually day to day get things done. But if you're spending most of your time on the dais asking questions that you should have asked before you got there, that's a waste of my time.
It's a waste of a lot of our time. That's why the meetings be 9 hours. So
I've been trying to cut them down. They love meetings. They love
like
workshops. They love 10-hour meetings. They just won't listen to me. I lose that vote every time.
Yeah. And so on this detector thing. So one of the superintendent said one of the added benefits or bonuses that they get from these detectors is that it's going to be able to pick up vape pens, right?
Yeah, I heard that.
I'm not sure what communities a whole bunch of people be vaping. I want to know, like, if the detectives start finding more vape pens than weapons, right? Because they use the word weapons, and weapons don't necessarily mean guns, right? I've had a person who called me, and they got in trouble because they had a box cutter in their bag, but they had a box cutter in their bag because they're a stock clerk at a one of the stores, and they had the wrong backpack that day, and that person got kicked out of school. Like, the young person got kicked out of school, had to go to an alternative school, all of these things, right? So when they're saying like, oh, we found 200 weapons, I'm like, well, what kind of weapons were they? And they could have been just something simple as box cutters. There's a student that brought a knife to school to cut a fruit, and it became like a whole issue, and that's not a person that has bad intentions. So just that they're saying that doesn't necessarily mean that all of these things there was malintent by the individuals that had these weapons in hand, right?
But I want to push back. I want to politely push back. So
okay, it's okay.
And while I can't, and polite, right? So while I can't show you, and this is my district phone. If I told you the amount of alerts that we get as board members all day for evacuations, for bomb threats, for weapons, for fights. I mean, I could give you the list of things. I have so many alerts per day by school. And think about how many schools there are in the county, 300, right? Every day I have at least 30 alerts of something happening countywide. That is some teacher being impacted, some administrator, some student, right? Somebody's being impacted. So big picture, let's take a step back. All students and faculty should feel safe on any campus. Any parent should be able to know that regardless of the school, regardless of the district, that they're safe, period. So you are right. Sometimes there are some that have good intentions, but guess what? Mom and dad should have checked that backpack, because guess what I see also as alerts? Second and third graders who so happen to have a weapon, that was in their backpack, right? Mom and dad, grandma, uncle, cousin got to do a better job, right? So I appreciate, and you're right? There's a balance, right? I want to just kind of say there's a balance where, yes, safety is paramount. I believe that 120%. Balance is paramount, but I will always err on the side of, as long as me as a school board member, I can look any parent in the face and say, regardless of what school you go to, I will make sure that I approve any additional safety measure. So you as a parent are comfortable, right? So that any employee is comfortable, right? Because that's the most important. Now let's talk about the vape issue. I think there was
I want to talk about it, but I want to make another point. So I was going to one of those, like, I think they're trying to, the Promise program is a whole thing that's not a thing anymore, and they're trying to come up with a different system program or whatever. And I was going to those meetings, but I'm like, I'm from the island, so I got like 5 jobs or something like that. So I can't go like I want to. And plus I was like, I'm not sure how productive this is, right? And because one of the things I saw is like they were talking about how it's like all these Black and Hispanic kids, and particularly boys, are the ones that cause 60-something% of the problems in the school, and they're the ones that are referring and all of this, right? And then a couple of my colleagues that are here were in one of those meetings, and then they did the breakdown by schools, the ones that had the fights and this.
I've seen them.
And I hope once somebody somebody check me on. I might need somebody to fact check me on this. But apparently there was this big fight in Fort Lauderdale at Fort Lauderdale High School one time, like it was a whole. That fight didn't make that list. You know, the list of all of the discipline problems that happened.
Right.
That fight at that school that had like a whole bunch of students involved didn't make the list of all the discipline problems.
Right.
So to me, like, how do we? So that's, for me, that takes away the credibility of you guys truly trying to really find some sort of system that's going to work well for the entire district. It seems like y'all targeting certain folks, right? And you coming up with some systems that are going to continue to show the disparity in punishment for Black and Latino boys in the school system, right? So even when they say like the guns that they're finding and the things that they're finding, and I don't think they're reporting all of the things that they're finding, and they're not reporting them in all the places that they're finding them. And that is what I have an issue with. So I said,
no, that's great.
We can talk about vaping. Yeah,
no, that's great. So let's talk about discipline. Let's talk about Promise Program. Let's talk about where we are. And then I'll tell you, as a former county commissioner, the only one serving on the board, I was a member of the CAB, which brought together NAACP, Public Defender's Office, State Attorney's Office, DJJ, all the players. Okay, I was the county commission representative, and there was a school board representative at the time. Over the years, I think it's fluctuated between years ago, then school board member Wexler, it was her baby, then County Commissioner Wexler. Robin Barterman has served, Dr. Osgood has served, all in the school board slot. So I am the only board member now serving who has been in that role. So I have a different view than probably the other 8 because they don't have that experience. I know what the Promise Program is and was. I know the original intent of the Promise Program. So I'm gonna come back to that.
Okay.
You raised discipline. So let me start there and then work backwards.
Okay.
I had a town hall meeting a couple months back, had 2,000 plus viewers. And I talked about what you just said. So what you just said is a fact. Discipline is disproportionately focused on African-American males and Hispanic males more than any other group. I talked about it. And actually, I see Tom Vasquez, who's making comments. He joined me on that, that town hall as one of the panelists. So I raised that public conversation with what you just talked about on we have a district problem. That, yes, that is the true data, but also let's unpackage the data to figure out what that really means, right? Are we only just over-reporting or reporting certain demographics, right? That's a fair question, right? And I pushed the district to make sure we can answer that question. But from a data standpoint, at least half of all disciplinary actions are with Black males and Hispanic males, period. So now let's talk about Promise. So the Promise Program, as you know, the board has gone away from the name of the Promise Program. Let me be clear. The name of the Promise Program, okay? We were the only school district, and I take that back. We were one of 2 school districts to have duplicate programs in the same circuit. So let me not talk, let me talk less judicial for the audience, right? It was stated that we had duplicative programs. So other districts said, okay, let's figure out who should be the lead. Is it the school district or is it someone else? Okay, and then I'm gonna unpackage all the other topics. So what the board just said is, look, let's rebrand the Promise Program. But I'm the only board member who made sure let's keep all the resources that was the intent of the Promise Program. Does that make sense? So the same resources that are available, the same opportunities for our children, right, and young adults, right? The same support network that we were providing is still being provided today. Okay, I want to make that point because I think there was a lot of chatter that folks really didn't understand what was happening. So the resources haven't gone away. The support hasn't gone away. The name has gone away. So I think we're still waiting to see what that new name and rebranding is. To your point, you are right. there are certain law enforcement departments, primarily the municipalities, a few, that really strongly targeted certain groups, but did not do the same for others. I've seen the data.
Okay. So let me stop you right there just for a minute. Okay. Yeah. So they, all the resources and all that stuff may still be the same, but I'm gonna tell you that I went to the meetings, and I think part of the problems are the resources are there, but the people who are there maybe that's dealing with the resources are not necessarily the right people in place. Okay. For example, the very first meeting that I went to, they had law enforcement officers from a whole bunch of agencies come in that room. And I walked in the room and all of the officers were white men, every single one of them. And I'm sitting there like, you ain't got no problems with this? And apparently they was like, and I'm the superintendent. He's like, well, I didn't notice that and I didn't realize that. And I'm just like, you ain't noticed that? Every cop in this room is some white dude. Like, that's crazy talk, right? That is crazy talk. What about representation? Y'all over here arresting black boys and Spanish boys or whatever, and all of these cops that come sitting here with all their stripes on are a bunch of white men. That's problematic, right? To me, that was problematic. So, of course, when I went to the next meeting, maybe only one of them came in and they sent, some folks of color, and they sent some of the brothers and the Hispanics and a female or two or whatever like that. But that's part of the problem. The fact that they're responsible for discipline in a they call it minority majority, but I hate the word minority because that is not a global view of people of color. So I don't really like using that word. So they have those in a place where you're represented by so much, and you have people in charge that can't see the problem, right? Because they just don't. I don't know if it's just that they don't have that perspective, they don't have that experience. But to me, I was sitting there like, y'all don't get it. And you guys they absolutely should not be the person that's running something that's affecting people of color. Because even if you want to believe that, you're an ally and you're this and you're that, there's some things you're just not going to see. Just like how you noticed that the configuration of that room wasn't inclusive. The other people are like, no, we're including all of the, the board advisory chairs or whatever. So there, for them, that was inclusion. But the fact that the press couldn't be there and the audience couldn't be there, you noticed that. But the other folks didn't notice this, right? So there's some things that folks are just not going to be able to see because they don't have that experience. And so I guess.
Amen, Sandra.
Yes.
We agree. Amen.
Okay.
And actually, if I look at Kim Burke-Mohorn,
what do we do?
They don't care, right? So no, amen, right? I think what your point is valid. I think the superintendent, and you just said it, right? The superintendent, right? Mm-hmm. We need to do a better job. And I'll tell you this, one board member, I have no problem, working with all the board direct reports, superintendent, general counsel, auditor, if there are things that we need to do to make sure that they are being more responsive, that they are more aware and sensitive, right, to all the community issues and needs. Yeah, I have no problem. So I'll take that back and I'll share that.
And one other thing I want to add to that, since you want to take some stuff back, right?
Yes.
So there was another one of these folks that was in that room, and I guess they have like some sort of program and they benefit from these Black and Hispanic boys getting into trouble, right? And then they said something like, well, at least they ain't going to jail. And I'm like, what? It is still disruptive to their life. You suspend people, you send them home, it's still disruptive. Just because they ain't go to jail don't mean that you've disrupted their life. And that's the type of mentality that's supposed to be coming up with a program that's benefiting Black and Hispanic kids. It's a problem. So,
that's right. No, I agree with you. No, that, and we can take it up offline. No, I'll definitely share with staff. No, I appreciate that.
All right. So I know. So you were gonna finish up, talking about the Promise program. I'm sorry for interrupting, but that seemed to be the.
Well, that was kind of big picture. I just wanted for the viewing audience, and I know that as I'm looking at many who are on, some know very well that those resources still exist. Look, there was a lot of conversation, administrations ago and years ago, and I'm not going to mention all. I'm not going negative. I'm not going talking about the past. I want to talk about the future. Right. Resources are present. Our boys and girls who need resources, it's there. We are working on rebranding the program. The full board supported removing the name Promise, but keeping the resources. That's a big win.
So I need you to change some of the people, though. I need you to change some of the people that's responsible for dealing with the resources.
I hear you. That's a fair point, but I'll take that to the superintendent because guess what, Sandra? You'll laugh at this. I'm not the superintendent. There's some board members who don't know their role. Right. My role is policy. fiduciary, budget, right?
Yeah.
Oversight. I will take that back to the superintendent because you will not see a grand jury report or a state report with my name in it.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I know you want to move in the future. I just got a couple more points.
Well, let's go. I'm good.
Apparently, it costs a lot to get rid of garbage now. That was their refuse, whatever.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So, and I'm assuming you're talking about. I'm assuming the county issue that's been going on for a while. If you're talking about and again, as a former county commissioner, I'm probably the only one of 9 who can talk about it. Where the cities have gotten together to say, hey, there may be a better opportunity on how we approach waste and recycling. There's a lot of conversation, South County in our area, around, if there should be some incinerator or some other, let's just call it option. The people on just the other side of county line, down in Miami-Dade, Miami Gardens, also kind of weighed in on that issue. So I know that there are a couple things still rolling. I know that Vice Mayor of the County Commission, Beam Fur, my former colleague, that this was one of his pushes to get all municipalities together to figure out what is the right plan for garbage, right? We know that, we have several, and this is not a sexy topic, right? But there are only several landfills, several dumps that we currently use. There are certain incinerators and systems that are not in use that are probably close to end of life. So just having trying to figure out what is the right long-term strategic plan for the region that is community sensitive, that is business smart, and that really, takes into account all of that. But no, I'm very familiar with our garbage issue as a former county commissioner. And look, I take garbage out every day. So of course, I'm aware of garbage.
And it seems like you said, the cities are having the same problem. And I don't want to call the garbage company name, and I'm going to say Waste Pro. A whole bunch of folks got some problems with them. So I don't know if that's who the school board uses, but apparently some of the cities, they might have some problems with them too.
That's right.
All right, then. So let's try to talk about this. We're gonna talk about this, and then we're gonna talk about the future.
Okay,
so
I'm
you
good.
called for that investigation.
I did. Well, no, okay. I called for. If you're referring to.
Did I use the wrong word? It wasn't called for investigation.
No, you can know it's good. So publicly, it's public, right? Well, yeah. Publicly at a board meeting was the first time 3 weeks ago, I think it was, where I could publicly talk about issues that I could not talk about because it only occurred in closed session. When the closed session was done, at the first time I could publicly talk about it, I did. But guess what, Sandra, and to the viewing public, that wasn't the first time I talked about it. All 8 members on the board heard me talk about it in closed session before. In closed session, each time I said, wait a minute, why am I looking at information on social media that it's only 9 of us in here plus a few staff? Somebody's talking. I went to another meeting and said, okay, I just saw details on social media. Who's talking? And I won't respond and tell you what happened, right? But things happened. So after things happened publicly, I now could talk about things that I observed because my colleague said, Torey, and the superintendent, I think, said, Torey, if you see something, say something. So guess what I did, Sandra?
Say something.
I said something and I put it in writing after I said it to the board. So there was no surprise. The board members knew, right? All of them know what I'm referring to. But Sandra, look at this. Go look at the Sun Sentinel when they wrote about it. I never called any name of a school board member, but guess what the Sun Sentinel did? I had 8 observations. One of them said, I observed and I can see 3 school board members received financial contributions from the BTU during this time. I didn't say who they were. I just said the dates of the contributions. Guess what the Sun Sentinel did? They validated it. I said in my letter, I observed 2 board members who weren't a part of prior conversations came in at the last minute and totally changed the trajectory of the conversations. I never said who the 2 board members were. Guess what the Sun Sentinel did? They identified on their own, not me, one person who self-identified. I said publicly in my letter that the board has taken a series of votes on decisions that you are bankrupting the district because you don't have future money for raises that 6 people supported. I did not say who the 6 members were. The Sun Sentinel validated it. The Sun Sentinel also validated another one of my observations. So look, remember, they sell papers. They can't say we have validated majority of his observations. They're not going to say that. You know, they don't want me to look like, oh yeah, they got to do their part. They got to sell stories, right? But their article validated more than half of my observations. And it's interesting, the public, I shouldn't say that. There is a silent majority who was very supportive of me always doing the right thing. I got calls from former school board members who said, Torey, I should have did what you did years ago. And guess what I said? Shame on you for not doing it then. Okay? So I'm okay and I'm good in my skin to hold people accountable. I'm comfortable in who I am and always doing the right thing when kids are at the center of what I do. Because when money is blown, I can't help Miramar High School, who has still an issue with instruments that they were promised from this district. I can't help Sunshine Elementary, who still has issues with air quality because they're right next to Perry Airport and there's an environmental issue that community is concerned about. I can't help so many other schools in my district, right? When board collectively, when members blow money that we don't have. Guess what also happened? And I'll get off my soapbox.
I'm trying to still figure out how they gonna get that with the decisions that they just made.
And guess what else happened
in the last couple weeks?
Guess what else happened? I did this all public before putting it in writing. I asked one simple question. I asked actually several questions, but one, does the money that we're about to vote on include raises for every Broward Schools employee? The answer was no.
Yeah, they did say no.
And guess what 6 members did? They put on their earmuffs, right? They looked at the curtain and someone was pulling their chain. That's wrong. And let me tell you, I'm going to call out every time.
They got a vision and they keeping hope alive that the money going to come next year from someplace, somehow. Sandra, you know, they're going to get those grant writers or somebody to do something.
Look at the Sun Sentinel today. I saw the tweet. They've already tweeted. They found where the board talked about this years ago. They knew this charter school thing was coming. Other districts are dealing with it now. So now I can talk about it publicly as my cockapoo is jumping on me. You know, I can talk about it publicly now that it's been now that it's been made public. But if the board, I know, big guy. Sorry, this is public.
No, so I have a dog too. It's okay.
I'm a dog dad. Anyway, so for the if the board knew, because it's now known that the board knew. Oh, he's now. Come on, big guy. That the board knew that there was a pending lawsuit. I can talk about it now because it's been made public. Okay, and the board knew the dollar value of that pending lawsuit. Okay. The board knew all of the pending liabilities of the district. The board knew and knows how much we currently have in our reserve. If all of that is known, Sandra, I can make some other observations, but I won't use those words. But if I knew that I only had $5 in the bank, but I spent $1 million of taxpayer money, somebody should be screaming. Okay. So the Sun Sentinel today, and they're doing their thing. They're just going slowly, right? I think that's what they want to do, which is fine. But it's shameful because I'm the only one that isn't afraid. And then I get text messages. Actually, one just popped up saying, I now know what you meant when you voted no, that every employee will not have a raise. Guess what the board did? They locked in 3 years of money that we don't have. And you knew about it. And I won't use the words I really want to use.
Okay. So what happens? So do the teachers not get their money and then they sue them too, or what? Like who they got to pay first?
And Amy, you're right. We do have great journalists that cover, right? Scott is doing his thing. Mm-hmm. I think I want him to do more, right? He's doing it. Keep going, Scott. But Sandra, I mean, look.
So who gets paid first? Like that's what I want to know. Who gets
paid first? The board said. I'm sorry. Let me be clear. 6 people said they only wanted to vote on things for teachers. 3 people said differently. Okay. This one board member believes that current existing resources that exist should be available for all employees. That's just simple, right? We talk about doing more for all of our employees, right? Cafeteria workers who are the least paid, okay? Bus drivers who are the least paid. It's not teachers, okay? Let's be clear. Our clerical staff, who is the least paid. Yeah. So if you want to talk about helping the least, the lost, the left behind, the lowest paid, you can pick your adjective. That's where you start. But there's 6 people who didn't want to start there for their own reasons. And you have to bring them on your show and ask them, Sandra.
They ain't come. I mean, they can't. Some of them they came before, and then
here's my
they mad at me now. Some of them
here's
mad
my cockapoo who just won't get out of it.
Oh, so cute. They mad at me now. I'm gonna try. They might come back now. They might have to rebut some of the things that you said.
Well, it's not about rebutting. That's my view, and they'll have their view. And the Sun Sentinel has validated a majority of my view. He just won't say it that way.
Okay.
Steve, I will just do it. I will. I'm doing it, Steve.
Where that makes me okay. All right. So all right. So it was that you talked about it. The Sun Sentinel is out here like confirming or some of the things that you said, and now those folks are going to have to deal with them. Yep. So I had a couple other questions that I said I was going to ask you. Okay. So like, what do we do moving forward? Because I did ask you who gets paid for it. Is the charter schools gonna get their money first? Yes. Are the teachers gonna get their raises?
Everybody
not? They might have to wait. The other people.
Everything will happen.
Voted for it, so
all will happen.
All of what gonna happen?
So my prediction is, he just won't give me. Oh my gosh! You just want to be right here on the screen, right? You want everyone to see you, to know that yes, I'm real, and yes, I have. See
and
that?
You're cute.
Look. Say hello to the audience, right? There you go. All right. So, yeah, I mean, look, Sandra.
So you saying all of it's gonna happen? Like,
no,
they'll be able to pay the charter school, pay the teachers.
So let's see what happens, right?
Everybody else stay mad.
I crafted a motion yesterday that said, "Do the right thing, follow the law, go figure it out." That was my motion. Okay, that we took 3 hours, and I think I was asked for a thesaurus, a dictionary, and other documents that I think board members needed. Anyway, so. We got past it, after 3 hours of changing 2 words, which really speaks to the dysfunction on certain parts of the board. But separate from that, we will do the right thing, follow the law. Charter school students are public school students. When we talk about 250,000 students in Broward County Public Schools, guess who are the 50,000 students? Charter public school students.
So I have children in both. So I ain't gonna talk
about
neither one. I have a son and child, and my daughter's in public school. So I have children in both.
Yeah, and I'm educating the public. I know right? I'm educating the public. And the board knows this. So if we like to say we're the 6th largest. Well, you can't say you're the 6th largest if you don't want to count the 50,000, right? But yeah, my belief is the board and the district will take care of teachers and all employees, if I have anything to do with it. We'll take care of our commitment following the law for our charter schools. But guess what the board is going to have to do, Sandra, that they don't want to do? You got to make some cuts. You got to make some tough decisions.
Like,
right?
What do you mean get cuts? Like admin, who's getting cut? Like the administrator said, "What? I don't understand where the cuts gonna come from."
Well, I may have board members.
But But I'm told that they have a lot of open positions anyway, so the school board isn't even operating at full staff. So shouldn't they be saving some money on that?
Well,
so what are they going to cut?
I've been trying to, look, I'm the only board member at the budget workshop who realized that the superintendent increased the number of employees this fiscal year by several hundred employees. No one even looked at it on the page.
But who he hired? Because they don't have no speech language therapists. They need some behavioral folks. I heard they training some to do it. But so who these 100 people work? Who are they? What they doing?
Don't ask me.
Don't ask you.
Don't ask me.
But no, people get hired, it should be of them.
That's right. But no, in all seriousness, look, I think everything will happen, but you need a board. You need at least 5 people that will do the right thing.
So, but it seems as though, so we're talking about the board and how those 6 folks voted. It appears to me that they voted for the teachers because the teachers union has a president that's more vocal. Because I know Anna Fusco's name. I don't think I know the name of the other folks. I think I might know the principal person's name or something like that. But is it because she's vocal? And she has a reputation of all kinds of stuff. But I digress. But is it because they have a more vocal president that the board, for whatever those 6 members of the board, not the entire board,
to be clear, not the entire
members of the board that supported something that no one knows how it's going to get paid for? Does it have anything to do with Anna Fusco and her, her being very vocal about the things that she wants for?
I have no idea. I won't speak to their motivations. I won't speak for the president of the union, of that union. But what I will say, Nicole Morris, I answer your question. Will the charter school money take away from broken windows and leaky roofs? No, I think prior board action by a majority of the board, not me, probably has done some of that. So you might want to talk to a few of your board members. But no, look, every union, every employee group, you're supposed to advocate, right? They do their job. So I get that. There's a balance. But come on, do the right thing, right? If you know that you have a $50 million hole that you're creating, but you're afraid to make cuts, you're afraid to tell the public that you just put the district in a hole $50 million, you're afraid to tell the public that you knew about litigation that's been going on for a while, you're afraid to tell the public, right, that that we only have $95 million in reserves, but that there's a $70+ million liabilities that about today, not including the charter school issue. I've been telling the public every meeting, but I'm telling the truth of what 8 other people know, but they don't want me to tell the truth because it's easy to be quiet, Sandra. I can go home. I can stay home. I don't have to go to board meetings. I can call in, I can do that, but that's not why I was put on the county commission. That's not why I was put on the school board. That's not why I was put on the FAMU board of trustees to help underprivileged Black boys and girls get to the highest of 7 hills in Tallahassee. There's a reason multiple governors. So yes, folks who say, yeah, he was appointed by the governor. Yes, you're right. I was appointed by a Democrat, now Charlie Crist. I've been appointed by Rick Scott. I've been appointed by Governor Bush. And yes, I've worked for Governor DeSantis. And I've been appointed many, many times, right? Because of hard work, because of doing the right thing, and because my community knows me. Sandra, you haven't seen anyone come on here and say, we've never seen him in the community.
No, they saw
We've
you.
never seen him answer questions. We've never seen him push ideas.
Mm-hmm.
We've never seen him, right? No one's telling you that. Folks go to the extreme. And I try to answer questions all the time at 11 o'clock that some folks will tell you, when my wife, she's not looking. But separate from that, that's what you need. You need a diverse school board, a diverse county commission, a diverse city of X, a diverse town of Y, right? That's what you need in Broward County. So I appreciate our school board because guess what? I don't think there should be 9 Torey Alstons. You've heard it here first, but you need 1, right? I don't think you need 9. I'll pick another board member, right? Lori Olideff, but you need 1, right? You need a good, diverse board. And for me, that is very, very important. And for those who just don't appreciate differences of opinion, right? Different perspectives. That's how you arrive. Look.
So I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna have to come. I'm gonna get you. So I'm gonna agree with you in that they need a diverse board, right? But diverse in the sense that maybe they have different ideas, but they all need to be interested in doing what's best for the students, right? They all need that because that board is diverse, but them people got some other agendas. Like you ain't calling no names, I ain't calling none either. But them people ain't over there to do nothing for no students.
Sandra, this is political. This is political season. All of the board members that are running for office, they care about the children.
Oh, so that's why they got the science books
right?
And stuff like that.
I care about employees. I care about facilities. You know what? Go back a year from now when they weren't running for office, right? Go back 2 years from now when you had a different school board, right? Go back and look at those votes when only one board member that's still sitting, to her credit, she's the only one board member who got it right with VC, that superintendent. Only one. There are several still sitting board members who got it wrong.
Real wrong.
Okay.
I remember
they sat there and allowed our schools to be impacted, our children to be impacted, our learning proficiency rates to go down. Okay. Right. Yep. They sat there. No one's held them accountable. Because you know why? We forgot about 2 years ago. We're only thinking about right now. Right?
I don't think they were up for re-election though, because I don't think their days were up. Yeah, I don't think they were the folks that you're talking about. They're up for re-election now.
Well, you got a combination. You got some now, some coming. But anyway, you're
right. It was at least one of them in 22 that was on the ballot that probably shouldn't have got re-elected. But I digress on that because I don't know if who the other alternative would have been that much better. But there's an election year now. So we talked about the things that are going on. We talked so now there's I don't know if this is transparency, but at least people are aware of a lot of things that's happening on the board right now. Folks have some decisions to make in August and possibly in November. So what is it that you see? What is it that you would like to see? How is it that Broward County can get a better reputation or become that A district that they all claim to want? But so how is that? How do we do that?
So Sandra,
and I'm not telling you to say you got to get rid of board members. That's not what I'm like you say. But what is it that you think needs to happen in order for us to do that? Because that might give people ideas on what type of person they need to vote for in order for this vision to in fact.
Let me remind you and the public and the listening audience who when I was chair of the board, who actually crafted and forced the board to focus on 100% proficiency of all students. That was Torey Alston. By board vote, the first school board workshop after being the school board chair. That was during the reform board period where we said we want proficiency to be number one. There was a school board chair then with a board led by Torey Alston that said, and I think in my swearing in speech, Sandra, go back. I said, let's reimagine a school board district that's an A district, not a B district. I said that. We had a superintendent at the time that convinced a majority of the board, some that are still sitting there, that it would take us 7 years to be an A school district. 7 years. So for me, it's amazing how people get amnesia because I remember very, very well and I listen very well. Okay. Those members are still serving. And some of them were convinced that it was going to take 7 years to be an A school district. Here's what I know. I was a student in this district when we were an A school district. I was a student in this district when I knew and saw that Broward County Public Schools was the most respected district around this country ahead of Miami-Dade. Okay. Now, look, I work for Miami-Dade schools. I'm the only person on the board who has been on two sides, and most people don't even know this. I've been on the academic side. I don't talk about it. And the operational sides at the leadership level. Okay. The only person on the board. So I speak with the experience having been in an A school district under an A superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, who knew how to put the right people around him. I worked for a school district and a school system that made children its priority, where the superintendent showed leadership, where the superintendent constantly talked to the news media, to stakeholders, to homeowner associations, to the NAACP, Urban League, Democratic clubs, Republican clubs, everyone. Okay, I'm not talking partisan stuff, but wasn't afraid to go everywhere in all communities. So the vision that's in my head, I've seen it, I've lived it, and I'm telling it to you. You need school board members who understand their role, that children is why we're here.
So, I mean, we want what superintendent number 4 in the last like 3 years or something. Is it
Well,
like
I'll speak for me. I knew that when there was a superintendent with the initials VC, when I was chair of the board, after 7 days, I knew I needed to do something. It took me 7 days. I can't speak for anybody else. Okay. It took me 7 days. It didn't take me 3 years to figure it out. Okay. So I knew I needed to do something, and I did, and I wasn't afraid to do it. And look, let's be clear, Sandra, for those who, and you say no to 4 day school week.
Yeah. 4-day school week. Yeah.
I get Andrew. That's his perspective. But I'll tell you, look, when I had a 4-day school week, it was a great experience.
I don't want to leave my teenagers home on day 5 because I got to go to work.
No, it was a 4+1. It wasn't a quote unquote 4-day. It was a 4+1. And we'll talk about that. But no,
I'm like, I don't need them in my house. That's gonna be a whole problem.
On that +1, you're doing community service.
Oh, so okay. On my Friday, that I'll support.
On my Friday, I accumulated probably over my high school time thousands of community service hours, which led to a Silver Knight Award.
I was a nominee. I didn't win though. That's awesome.
Look at that. What category, Sandra?
Science.
Can you guess my category?
Probably like, I don't know if they had a political one. Which one was it? Like what? It had to be like, I can't remember what the categories were.
Oratory was my category.
Oh, okay, I can see that.
I think it was it oratory?
I don't remember that. I think
that was.
Is that what it was called? Because I had a friend who did drama, so I know some people English or whatever, but I don't. Okay, yeah. That's congratulations. That's good stuff.
Yeah. So no, it's look. Yeah. So I mean, back to what the district should be. I've seen our glory days. That's on sitting and wrote about it.
So if it's not going to take 7 years, how long do you think can we get there with who we have? Well, I mean, probably not with who we have now.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. You need the combination of the right superintendent, the right school board members. You need an engaged community. So look, as I look at this is engaging, where folks can push and take, right? Give and take, right? That's the kind of community you need that really is invested in what's going to move the needle for our children. That's what you need, an engaged community. But also you need folks who will be bold, who will be transformational, but who listen, right? And I think all those are important traits for your board members. But it's interesting, the community, I think we struggle with who should be on the board, right? And I won't even go there, but I think you need people on the board who understand both the academic side of the house and the operational side of the house, right? And those are two different sides. And at the end of the day, look.
Yeah, but I think what elections end up being like popularity contests here because a lot of people just don't know. They don't get to learn enough about candidates, and they just kind of go. Yeah, that's part of the problem,
100%.
Yeah, it's people aren't really informed about how people stand on issues, right? So I think that's part of the problem. It's I saw that person in a picture with Joe Biden, so I'm gonna vote for them or something like that.
That's
I'm talking about particular, but I might be, so it's things like that ends up having people make decisions without them knowing where these candidates stand on issues for real. But now some of those folks have a record that they can look at. And if people look at the record, then, they may make different decisions. But I think a lot of them are unopposed. Amy Shield might know, because she updated me like a few weeks ago that most of the people that have announced that they were going to run, that they don't I think District 1s have opponents, but the other ones are unopposed. Well, that was the reality at the end of like February. So I don't know if that has since changed. But
and I think District 1, I believe that's my friend, Board Member Foganoli. And I think
there's 2 other people in that race.
I know that, I think there are a couple of people in that race, but clearly I think Daniel has served well. So clearly I know where my money, my heart, my support clearly is with Daniel. I know that I think Leonardi is up. I'm not sure if there's anybody in that race. I know that Hickson is up. Not sure if there's anybody in that race. And I can't think.
Five. Jeff Hogan is up too.
Yeah,
5 is up.
And then the seat that I am occupying will be on the ballot as well.
Yeah, and I think Rebecca Thompson somebody is running. I think Rebecca Thompson might be the person that's running for that seat.
Yeah, she's the secretary to Board Member Zeman. That is correct.
Yes.
So she has already filed. So it'll be an interesting season. I can't wait. I can't wait.
I'm one of those people. I'm on the record for saying that nobody should run unopposed. So somebody need to go in there, because I don't think people should run unopposed at all.
So here's my prediction. I think all races will be contested.
Okay, I hope so, because I don't think anybody should run unopposed. To me, I
agree.
No, I don't support that at all. All right. So right superintendent, and I'm not saying that you're suggesting that the superintendent that's here right now is not the right one, but you said the right superintendent with a combination of a good board would be the way to get Broward County to A district status in less than 7 years.
With an engaged community. And
with an engaged community.
And I don't believe it won't take 7 years. I think it can happen in the next year or two. And look, this board, new superintendent Licata has come in. I think we have steered him in the right way. But let's see.
So you said something about an engaged community, and I'm gonna just tell you that I was at a District 5 meeting at one of the schools. Mr. Wimberly can tell you what school it was, and the superintendent was there, but he left because he said his wife had just come back from vacation and he needed to see her. So I think that community was trying to be engaged, but in that moment, the superintendent left. To me, that's a whole problem. That's a entire problem to me. And I'm not saying he need to go see his wife, but he need to go see her then. She's gonna be home later. You know what I mean? So I the engaged community, and particularly if you get people to come out at night that's been working all day, you don't leave like that. You listen and hear what they got to say, even though it's popular, unpopular, whatever it is. And I hope I ain't getting you in no trouble because I'm saying all this, but I was extremely disappointed in the fact that he left that meeting with that excuse. It was, to me, it was absolutely unacceptable. So
I don't disagree if that's what occurred 100%. And to Amy Shield, yes, I'll be making some decision at some point soon about my next steps. My wife has already given me her suggestions, and of course, I'm sure I'll be making it known, at the right appropriate time.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, no. So those are my questions. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come. And they were talking about the uniforms in a comment.
I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, so they were talking about the uniform. Some people are saying no. I think most of the people said no, but I personally like uniforms. So my kids have been wearing uniforms since they started school. I don't want to try to figure out outfits in the morning. I just don't. And if you let my son wear what he wants, he going to your school with sweatpants and Crocs on. I'm telling you that the boy we got on the plane with pajama pants.
Yeah,
so
but you just raised the point, Sandra. I mean that's the reality. We all pass schools every day. I pass. I won't say what schools I pass every day. And we see the dress code, and not just of the children, but look at the adults, right? So that we need to have a real conversation. But look, as we talk about. Look, I worked for Miami-Dade schools where we had district charter schools, okay, where the superintendent was the principal of the school and managed the school. Where that school, as an example, and I think one board member talked about it, but I've seen it in action because I've been there, actually had uniforms, right? That's just the culture.
Yeah.
It's different things that, the board should consider, should explore. Why have parents left? What are their reasons? I think many of us know that. We've seen the data. One data point actually speaks to uniforms, right? Another data point speaks to types of facilities. Another data point speaks to, needing more engagement from staff. So all the things you just talked about are what the survey was.
I think people left because people left the state. It's expensive to live in Broward County right now. You know what I mean?
So don't. That's no. Sandy, that's not the true
leaving
narrative.
Because it's expensive.
That's not the true narrative.
I know a whole bunch of folks that just moved. They're like, we out.
No. So let me help you with the narrative. So
help me with
remember, in my day job, which I haven't talked about, I'm a former number 2 guy at the Florida Department of Transportation.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 1,000 individuals that come to Florida per day.
Right, okay. And 800 leave though.
No, that number is way smaller. So what you see migration happening from those coming up from Miami-Dade to Broward. So you're right. The point around, have costs going up? Absolutely everywhere, right? I'm not debating that. But what I want you to know is Broward has actually seen its number of visitors and residents increase, not decrease.
But are they families with children though?
Yeah. So here's what you're seeing.
Okay.
So at the
school-age children.
That's right. So at the K3 level, we originally were seeing so many come in at that level, right? Through the public school system, traditional public schools. What you're now seeing, you're still seeing some come through, not at high numbers, because many are going to private schools, right? Because of the now opportunity scholarships, right, that have been created. You now have the charter option, right? You have Christian schools, Jewish day schools. So you have all these other options that parents, instead of going to a traditional public school initially, they're choosing another option. So it's not that, and don't get me wrong, there's still people who are leaving public schools. I know those numbers too. Yeah. But the largest influx typically occurs right when you're coming in that K3 or that pre-K kindergarten level. You now have a difference. Or a lesser number that's coming in at that level.
Okay. So that's all right. So thanks for breaking that down and explain that, because I know people are moving in, but a lot of moving out too. And I know that more for the voting side, because we're having the county is shifting in terms of their political demographic because of the people that are coming in that are moving out. So that's how I understand.
Which is a good thing. We're becoming a more diverse and engaged community. Right, that's a good thing.
We might have to agree and disagree.
That's all I said. No, we agree. Listen to what I said: a diverse and engaged community. That's a good thing. No, as Cynthia just said, I do represent the school board on the MPO. I was also the MPO representative when I was on the county commission, and that's the Metropolitan Planning Organization for those who are watching. And we debate transportation issues all the time. My day job, I also lead what used to be still the toll authority down in Miami-Dade and Monroe counties. That's my day job. So anything education, anything transportation, anything another industry that my wife is in, I know very, very well. So yes, we debate those issues regularly. And yes, I have a big picture view of transportation projects all around the state, having been the number 2 guy during COVID, right? During the pandemic. Briefing the governor and folks at that time, as you recall, right, all the flights coming in the state, all the flights going out of the state, where they're coming from. Look, I was in the trenches, and those were great. It was a great time, great experiences. There were some great, professionals. Jared Moskowitz and I were staff at the time, right? He was the number 1 head of emergency management. I was number 2 at FDOT. But those were just great times. We were public servants behind the scenes, making sure that the state was moving forward. So yeah.
I get that. Thank you. And thank you for explaining that. Like I said, I hear the numbers, but for different reasons, not necessarily for, school population. So to me, it sounds like because people have all of these alternative ways of how they can send their children to school, how is the public? To me, it doesn't sound like the public school system is going to be able to recoup those numbers.
Well, so here's what I support. I'm a parent, so I support choice. I support every parent decides what is best for their child, period. What I also support on the school board is making sure that we can be competitive with our competitors. I'm a business owner, right? I want to make sure that I don't get put out of business, right? As a school district. So what are the charters doing? what are the private schools doing, right? That are making them top-notch, world-class, best facilities, best-in-class educational programs. That's what I want to replicate and do it better on the school district side. So that's the conversation that I think is critically important, big picture, strategic, that the board needs to continue to have. So I don't think, I don't fault parents for putting their child where he or she, mom and dad, believe they should go. I mean, that's what I believe, right? Every mom and dad should decide that.
Yeah, like I said, I have a child in charter and I have one in public school. And I also have to say that my daughter that's in public school, she's ESC, right? Okay. And a lot more needs to be done for that particular population. However, I had her in a private school, and it just didn't seem like the resources that she needed was in that school. And I put her back in public. Since the pandemic, that I don't know if that's necessarily like still going to continue to be the best decision for her. And she's more high functioning, so she is like what they call mainstream or in like standard, on track for standard diploma. But I do see that there are some deficiencies, at least for the ESC population. Is there anything that you're suggesting, proposing, or that the board can do to make that experience better for students ESC? I'm on the advisory board. I'm District 5 person. Jeff Holness I'm his appointee for the ESC group. And I was in a meeting yesterday, and I don't know, them people coming there with all these numbers and all this talk, and I just like, what does that add up to? I don't. Yeah.
Look, and I'll tell you, Melissa Ramos is my appointee representing District 2. On the ESC advisory committee, and she does a great job, Melissa. Hopefully you're listening. But I'll tell you, you're right. I mean, I think the board has really, shifted a lot of its focus on ESC, ESOL, kind of that, those, all of our children. I don't think that focus was there before. As we talk about charter schools, public charter schools, I think there is more that we can encourage our public charter schools to offer, to your point, right? Around support services that typically those schools have not provided.
Yeah, because my daughter couldn't go to the same school my son go to. There's that we don't have the ability to. They couldn't provide. She had an IEP at the time. There's like we can't do none of that. We ain't even about to lie to you. She can't get none of these services. Now apparently, I could have litigated and tried to make them give those services, but I was like, well, let's try this private school. Didn't work. I brought her back in the public schools. But, someone, Ms. Deidre Rule said that, the ESC needs some major work.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. Yeah. And I tell you, my Melissa, who's my appointee, probably reaches out to me weekly with ideas, suggestions, and, things that need to take place. I'll tell you this because this occurred maybe 2 meetings ago at the school board. Where I'm the only board member who asked a very simple question, which I think I'm typically that only one, and I'm okay with that. There was an intent to end funding for certain schools. So I asked a very simple question. There were 4 schools. Well, no one said, well, name the 4 schools. Well, guess what district they happen to be in, Sandra? Mine. So I immediately said, we're not ending Title I designation for our schools in District 2. Guess what happened the next day, Sandra? We figured it out, and that designation remained for those schools. So look, when you see an issue, my job is to quickly resolve it. I do it off the dais. I do it on the dais. I do it when I'm talking to homeowner associations. I do it when I'm talking to alumni associations and faith groups. I do it when talking to political groups, right? So that's really the role of your board. So, no, I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you. So Ms. Rusi also said she's been dealing with stuff for 2 years. vision kids that are not completely blind but have vision impairments are not getting vision plans. I'm hoping that ends for me soon. Yeah, I know that Jackie Goddard, who's in charge, who's the chair of the ESC committee, she does. I know she's doing a lot of stuff with the deaf and hard of hearing. She had made some progress in that department. So hopefully, when we have with the visually impaired, there'll be some more work. Like my daughter needs like a whole bunch of services. She gets some, but yeah, it's definitely a lot needs to be said. So these 100 people that just got jobs, yes, I wish they had gotten jobs in the the departments, in the ESC department, because there seems to be a great need there. So thank you so much.
Of course.
You spent a lot of time with me today.
Of course. And I'll answer one last question. Amanda just asked if there are a list of schools from the superintendent. Not yet, Amanda. We just asked him. I asked him and the board agreed, bring it back to the April 16th board meeting. I think you'll hopefully see maybe the part 1 of a list coming in a few weeks. All right.
All righty. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate you.
Coming. Hey, we got to do this again.
Yeah, we have to do it again. We got to get an update.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm gonna get through some questions. So.
Maybe when I answer Amy Shields' question about what next, I'll come back.
Absolutely. And after that April 16th meeting, when that list come out, we need you to come back too.
Sounds good.
So we can talk about that.
Thank you to my constituent, my friend, my fellow parent. And look, thank you for what you do, Sandra. This show is amazing. Many continue to rave about your show.
Yes, you can subscribe and like the page and comment and all that kind of stuff so the numbers can go up. I appreciate y'all for watching, though.
And thank you for having a diverse set of opinions on the show.
Right? Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Sandra. This is amazing. Thank you to the listening audience.
Bye-bye, y'all.
For all you do. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Elections have consequences.